All right, how's it going? Welcome to the eighth episode of the Next Man Up podcast. I'm here with Adam and Rich. Adam, Rich, say hello. Seems like one of you guys already made a noise in my intro.
Sup,
Hello.
sup?
I don't know who that was, but they're getting a 2-minute drill later, and it's going to be impossible questions. Let's put it that way.
Oh boy.
Maybe.
Anyway, if you haven't seen the podcast before, we're three regular Joes, as you can tell by our lack of professionalism in the intro. Who just like to talk about sports. We mainly touch on football, basketball, and hockey, mostly professional. But today, we're actually going to kick things off with probably the most topical thing that's going on, which is March Madness tournament coming to an end. Guys, pretty interesting. Anytime you see a team that's undefeated throughout the entire season losing in that last game, it's devastating, man. You know, just because we're out there crying and stuff. I mean, like that's hard to see, but I mean, it makes for good entertainment. Did anyone get a chance to make a bracket or really participate in March Madness this year? I myself did not very much, but I was eyeing the tournament here and there.
Go ahead, Rich.
I was just saying, oh man, I totally made a bracket. Totally pissed some money away on my bracket. I was already done after the first round. All my upset picks did not go the way I wanted. So then all the actual upsets totally destroyed my bracket.
Yeah,
So
for sure. That's all.
that was, yep, that was fun.
Yeah. So I definitely made a bracket. I didn't put any money down on it or anything, but I oddly, or maybe not oddly, since they are number one seeds, I had Gonzaga and Baylor in my Final Four.
Wow. Did you win your pool then?
No, I did not. I had
Wow.
Gonzaga.
Dang.
I had Gonzaga
What's
winning it all, but I had Baylor, I think, losing in the Final Four. And my brackets kind of got fucked in general because I had or my bracket got fucked because I had U of I going to the Final Four as well.
Yikes!
And they went out early, so
yeah, they got taken down by Loyola.
yeah, right. So yeah, overall I did okay. I think it gave me a report saying I got like 62% of the games like picked correctly, but
It's not bad.
apparently that wasn't good enough to win anything. So yeah, I did okay, but definitely fouled it. But as far as keeping up on scores, but I wasn't able to really throw on any games this year.
Speaking of totally blowing it, like we all did with March Madness this year, me not doing it, and then you guys seems like flaming out. Rich maybe not even knowing what teams are ranked as. Speaking of totally botching it the way Rich just did, how about the New York Jets, the Rich of the NFL, and apparently the me as well.
Oh man.
Yeah. I stuttered through my own joke. That's not good. That just really the pot calling black. But anyway, yeah, guys, talk me through what's going on with this Panthers Jets trade. Where you guys stand with this?
Well, Rich, you were the big Darnold guy, so let's hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, seriously, this trade right here with the Panthers actually gave up. Unreal that the Bears did not make an effort or anything, because what the Panthers gave up was not a lot at all. Like,
Right.
They gave up a second-round pick this year, and then next year. Okay,
right.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's the second, fourth next year, and they got a pick for this year, right?
Sixth
round pick. Yeah, sixth-round pick this year. So the Panthers gave up nothing for this year's draft. So if the Panthers do well with Darnold, the Jets' second-round pick is going to be complete trash to even begin with. So for the Bears to not even attempt and call the Jets to do something like this blows my mind. That instead of getting a 23-year-old Sam Darnold that has a way higher ceiling than Andy Dalton, you're just going to be content with Andy Dalton.
Right.
Unreal.
Question though, do you think they would take this trade with the Bears? Because these types of trades where you trade for a slew of draft picks over the course of, it looks like at least 2 years in this case, that's assuming that the team's going to stay bad. People won't make that type of a trade with a team that, I don't know. Like, I guess then again, I don't know. The Panthers I don't know. Maybe I'm off base here. I think the Panthers maybe would make the leap with this trade. But this trade kind of assumes that the team is going to stay bad for at least 2 years so that the picks are kind of worth something in 2022. But then again, I don't know, man. They got McCaffrey. They've got a real quarterback now. I don't know. Maybe they do make a push and they become a playoff team, and then you kind of find yourself scratching your head and saying, Panthers are one of those teams on the outside looking in, much like the Bears, and then this makes them a playoff team. So you kind of hurt yourself in 2022 when that team probably takes the leap. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess to Rich's point, I've changed my mind midstream. I think maybe I see where you're coming from. Man, we're off the rails today.
Yeah,
getting a later start than normal, and these takes are trash so far.
Yeah, I would say that I think in one of the past podcasts I brought up when we talked about Darnold, I was saying, something like a second and a fourth, or trading away the first round and getting maybe a third or a fourth back was kind of what I was proposing. So I think the Panthers probably won that trade as far as, getting a player that could probably still perform, but they're obviously taking more of the risk. While the Jets sitting at number 2 can pretty much take their pick at any quarterback outside Trevor Lawrence in the draft. So I think it was just kind of a matter of time until they kind of unloaded on someone, but I'm surprised the Bears didn't kind of maybe make a similar offer to what the Panthers did. So I think it is a little bit of a risk because Darnold hasn't really taken a big leap forward, but him being so young and kind of the things we've talked about in past podcasts about his upside have a potential to make them better at the quarterback position for sure over Teddy Bridgewater. But the Panthers are one of those teams that over the last few years have had a fairly talented roster and time again have underperformed. So I'm not sure if just adding Darnold will kind of push them into that playoff conversation. Now, this year might be a little bit easier to make the playoffs with Drew Brees retiring in that division, but I think just adding Darnold isn't enough for me to be considering them a playoff team for this year. I think they really have to nail the draft and start to put a couple more pieces around Darnold, and I think down the line we'll really see if it was a hit or a miss, but I think it was a good trade on their part for sure.
Yeah, totally agree with totally agreed. Panthers definitely won this trade. I kind of disagree with the playoff team. I think the Panthers can make the playoffs with Darnold and a healthy Christian McCaffrey. You also have to
say they can't. I think they can. I'm just saying I just don't think adding Darnold all of a sudden makes them a playoff team. I think they're still going to have to perform as well as they should have performed in the past couple of seasons.
And I guess maybe that's what the Jets are banking on with this trade is that, like, it's not enough to make them a playoff team, which is kind of where I was going with that. But I don't know. I kind of agree with Rich. I think, like, and you even brought up too, Adam, that, like, with Brees retiring in that division, like, I don't know. There's room for them to get in the playoffs. So I don't know. So those picks become a little bit less valuable the lower they drop. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to kind of disagree with you, Adam. I think Darnold does push the Panthers into a playoff team because, the Panthers also got Robbie Anderson, I believe, the wide receiver from the Jets with Darnold, and that's when Darnold was playing well with the Jets, was with Anderson. So now he's hooking back up with, it seemed like, his favorite receiver in the NFL so far. So that connection's already going to be, like, good and well.
Sure.
Then you're going to have the running game back. Like, I think Darnold does push the Panthers into that, like, playoff conversation.
I'd have to see him do it first. I'm not saying he can't. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think he has the potential to do it. That's why we've been saying all along that that we wouldn't mind the Bears getting him, and I would have loved the Bears to make this exact trade. I would have much rather seen Darnold over Andy Dalton, but I haven't seen him be able to really take a team and push them into the playoffs. But I mean, he's been with the Jets his whole career, so it's kind of hard to take a team like the Jets and push them into the playoffs. So again, I'm not saying he can't do it, but let's see if he can. I'm very interested to see if he can. But I really think they'll have to nail the draft to be able to make a run at the playoffs this year.
All right. Yeah, so with that in the picks, we're going to kind of move on to the next topic here. And our next topic is Draymond Green the best defender in the league? What do you guys think?
No.
Definitely.
Not even close.
Not even top 10 in my opinion.
The best defender in the league. He's not a bad defender, but no, he's just not. The best defender in the league, in my opinion, is probably Jimmy Butler. Like, and I'm biased as a Bulls fan, but like the way this dude at 30 years old is still playing the passing lanes and getting steals, and like I think he's playing power forward now too for the Heat. So like he can guard like 4 positions. They always say that, you know, guys can guard 5 positions, but I've seen Draymond get his ankles absolutely busted by some of these point guards in the league. And I don't know, like I don't think Draymond can guard real centers anymore either. I think he came alive in an era where like the true center was like dying a little bit. You know, he was guarding guys like Dwight Howard that don't really have a great post game and stuff. But like now that we've got these Jokic, you know, Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid type players, we have these like real superstar offensive oriented centers again. Like, I don't think he is as valuable because I don't think you can play Draymond Green throughout an entire game at center anymore. Whereas, you know, and you can't put him on point guards either. So I think he's really just a dude who can guard like 3s and 4s. Whereas like a guy like Jimmy Butler, I think can guard 1 through 4, at least 2 through 4.
Yeah, I honestly, I definitely would not even put him in the top 5. He probably wouldn't even crack the top 10. And the fact that he's trying to say, not only is he trying to say that he's the best defender in the league right now, he was trying to say he was the best defender in the league all time.
No, that's not even
baffles
close.
Me. Yeah,
that's not even close. No,
I honestly is, and I'm like, let's be real here. Like, he's not a terrible defender. He's
not at all. He's a good defender.
He's a good defender, but I don't think at any point in his career he was even the best defender in the league. I mean,
he won Defensive Player of the Year one year, didn't he?
Yeah, once. But it's like, that year, was he even the best defender in the league? And I really don't think so. I mean, I can name probably, off the top of my head, I can name at least 5 defenders that are better than him right now. Jimmy Butler being one of them. Kawhi Leonard, I think, is a better on-ball defender for sure. Giannis is probably a better defender. You could make the argument Rudy Gobert is a better defender. Absolutely. And then Ben Simmons, I would take on defense. Ben
Simmons is a great defender. That honestly could surpass my Jimmy Butler pick. I think Ben Simmons might be the best defender in the league right now. And then if you told me that, I would not disagree. Like, I personally think Jimmy Butler, I'm a little biased, but like Ben Simmons is an incredible defender. And that's a dude who really can guard all 5 positions.
Sure, right. So, and then as far as like a shot blocker defender goes, I would go Bam Adebayo over there also in Miami. The guy can block any shot from anywhere on the floor. And I would probably even take Joel Embiid over Draymond at this point. So I don't even know how many names I just threw out, but he for sure 100% wouldn't even be in the top 5 for me.
5 or 6 that you just threw out there. But I mean, I think Giannis is a slightly overrated defender, but I think at this stage of his career, he's definitely better than Draymond Green is on defense. It looks like Green won the award in 2017, so that wasn't that long ago. But I mean, you blink and you know that's coming up on 4 years ago, something like that. So yeah, I mean, things change. It's hard to defend at a high level for a long period of time, and I think Draymond's already on the back end of his 30s and just an undersized power forward center who can't really shoot well enough to be playing power forward anymore. So he's really just been playing like a lot of center and stuff, especially since they've got the rookie on Golden State, James Wiseman.
Oh, right, Wiseman.
But since they're not playing Wiseman a lot because he's young, I mean, like he's been playing a lot of center, and I just don't think. I think you'll see in the playoffs when they face some teams with some elite centers that he'll get exposed a little bit. Like
Wiseman has been in the starting lineup as of late, so.
True, but I think down the stretch, like when games get close, the Golden State's always really liked playing those like 5 small players, and I think that's an underrated thing to look at too in Draymond's defense is that Andre Iguodala, who was a fantastic defender in his prime, played there, and so like when they really needed a stop, Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green were both out there, and they were playing small ball and stuff, but that doesn't work as well without him out there. And they also have Klay Thompson, who's an incredible defender. So I think Draymond's never really like anchored a defense that didn't already have great defenders on it.
If Klay Thompson can ever make it back onto the court again.
Yeah, I really would like to see him back, and that's a guy I think is a slightly overrated defender, but really is a solid defender. So it's not like Draymond Green's ever anchored an entire defense the way like a Rudy Gobert has or some of these other players. But, you know, he's played alongside some solid defenders, and he only has one Defensive Player of the Year award to show for it. So, like, to your point. So, yeah, I don't know. And then in terms of saying he's the best defender of all time, that's just absurd.
That's just a joke, in my opinion.
Bill Russell's probably the best defender of all time.
Bill Russell
guarded Wilt Chamberlain, who's has superhuman video game records in the NBA, and he beat him in the finals when it matters most, like guarding him one-on-one and stuff. Like, I think that makes you a fantastic defender. Obviously, Michael Jordan's a terrific defender.
Yeah.
One of the 5 guards to ever win Defensive Player of the Year. I know we always love to, being from Chicago, like, hop on the Michael Jordan bandwagon, but like this guy really was a fantastic defender. And then his own teammate, Scottie Pippen, was a terrific defender. Dennis Rodman, a guy who's won Defensive Player of the Year, I believe twice. At least back years in 1990 and 1991.
Yeah. And Dennis Rodman's the best rebounder of all time, which goes into defense.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, defense doesn't end until you secure the rebound. So the guys who do that at the highest level, I think, deserve to be rewarded. Not to mention, there's clips of Dennis Rodman, you know, defending a young Shaquille O'Neal one-on-one despite giving up, 4 inches and probably 100 pounds, it seems at least.
Yeah.
The dude's a terrific defender. And then a guy I think has totally been overlooked in this whole, media debacle that is Green announcing he's like the best defender of all time is Ben Wallace. That's the guy who actually holds the record for the most Defensive Player of the Year awards. He did it 4 times in 5 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you were kind of to take the Draymond archetype of like being a 6'9", like undersized center that can guard multiple positions, Ben Wallace was better at it. So it's like you're not even the best at the breed of defender that you are.
Right. I would love to see in their prime Dennis Rodman go against Draymond Green, and Dennis Rodman would literally probably beat the shit out of him if they were playing in the 90s.
Yeah,
it would be. Dennis Rodman wasn't even a scorer. He was a defender and a rebounder, and Dennis Rodman would have 20 points and 50 rebounds against Draymond Green, no doubt in my mind.
That's absurd. But he would easily get 20 rebounds every game against.
Honestly, God, Dennis Rodman he doesn't even deserve to be on the same page as Draymond Green. He's way better in every way. As far as defense goes. And then, kind of some of the names you mentioned, Scottie Pippen, MJ, Hakeem Olajuwon, Bill Russell.
I don't know how I forgot. That's one of my favorite players of all time. Hakeem Olajuwon, another terrific defender. Do you know he's one of the few guys to have a quadruple double, and I think he's the only guy to do it twice. So he's basically had a triple double and blocked over 10 shots twice in his career. So it's like, talk about a guy who plays both ends of the floor, but another guy like Michael Jordan that we overlook how good he was on defense too. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner. So
I honestly, God, I can't even put Draymond on the same page as some of these guys. When he comes out and says he's the best defender all time, it's just a joke in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree. And like you said, the era you play in remains to be seen as well. I mean, maybe Draymond would be a way better defender playing in the 90s where he could hand check and be a little more physical. Worse. But I think, like you said, what makes Draymond special is that he plays similar to those guys in the 90s, and he kind of bullies some less aggressive players. But if everybody was as aggressive as Draymond is, which is how things were in the 90s and early 2000s when like Ben Wallace and Jordan and Pippen and Hakeem and all these other guys were playing, it would be pretty reasonable to think that he would struggle. So.
I'm also going to chime in here about like big names on like being good at defense too. Don't forget about Kobe Bryant and Ron Artest.
Both those guys. Ron Artest, awesome. Defensive Player of the Year award winner. He's the guy who broke that Ben Wallace 5-in-a-row streak because he won it in 2004. Yeah, Ron Artest is known for his off-the-court antics and being kind of an antagonist, but Rich is right. That dude was a phenomenal defender in his prime. And Kobe Bryant, another underrated defender, like one of the best on-ball defenders I've personally ever seen. I think a guy that, again, because of his offensive ability, his defense was totally slept on. But Kobe Bryant could really play defense. Maybe not statistically speaking in terms of steals and blocks, but just the eye test would show you that like that guy could really clamp up and stay in front of people. We've seen it even in like all-star games and stuff where he's like clamped LeBron James like 3 plays in a row down the stretch in like an all-star game. Like the dude locks in on defense. When he locks in, he's incredible. He was incredible.
I believe by Ron Artest, you guys are talking about the player formerly known as Ron Artest, the player Meta World Peace. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah,
okay, just wanted
when he won the award and when he was good.
I just wanted to make sure that we all were on the same page there with the man who is now Meta World Peace, who is forever known as the guy that elbowed people in the face multiple times on accident, according to him. But
pretty intentional to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
as Meta World Peace, elbowing people in the face. So, yeah, no, definitely. Like I was saying, a lot of people that I would have way more than Draymond Green, and in my opinion, doesn't even deserve to be in the same conversation as these guys. As we've had a conversation about it for the last 10 minutes plus, but. Yeah, I think it's a joke. I think Draymond Green would probably do even worse in the 90s because he does try to play that physical bully ball, as I like to call it, but I think he would just get out-muscled and outworked and out everything in the 90s even more than he does now, and I think he probably wouldn't have even made a name for himself if he played in the 90s. He probably would barely get off the bench, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I mean, he's never been a good enough shooter to really warrant.
He's not good enough at anything.
Yeah, he's just kind of a decent all-around player. Kind of reminds me of the 90s player Anthony Mason a little bit, but he could obviously handle the ball a little bit better. A perfect example of just a good but not great player. So anyway, on the topic of basketball, I guess the next thing we've got on here, this is actually an interesting one. Which of you guys put this on here? This talking about kind of the super teams that are developing and then kind of flashing back 10 years ago to the year to when the Chris Paul trade was blocked.
Yeah, like Rich actually put that on there.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Rich sometimes puts stuff on there and then knows nothing about it, as we've seen in past podcasts.
Hey, you know what? This is actually a good topic because I actually remember this happening. And Chris Paul was supposed to go to the Lakers, and then the commissioner, the old commissioner now for David Stern said no and was like, we're not doing this because he's like, we got to keep the league competitive. We don't want super teams. And like, look at the league now, nothing but super teams.
Right.
Well, and I think that's partially revisionist history. That's certainly the reason why, but the reason they gave, which was kind of a technicality and total bullshit because they ended up trading him to the Clippers and forming a playoff team with, you know, a kind of a superstar duo anyway, and Griffin and Chris Paul, is the reason they said that they wouldn't do it is because at the time, I believe the Hornets owner had kind of just sold the team, or he had lost control of the team and the league was managing the team. I'd have to look up the history of what exactly happened, but the team was technically being managed in the interim until someone could buy the Hornets. So they sold. So they, the Lakers had tried to do a trade during that time that I think many misinterpreted as, you know, kind of an unfair, lopsided trade, but it was actually an incredibly fair trade. They were going to give up Pau Gasol, who was clearly the second best player on the Lakers, the second half of the star duo of Kobe and Powell that won 2 championships the 2 years prior. They were going to give up their second best player in the core of their team, and Lamar Odom, who was Sixth Man of the Year during that championship run as well and was at the peak of his powers. They were going to give up both of those guys for Chris Paul. And when that trade got vetoed, it not only kept the Lakers from getting Chris Paul, but it also forced them to get rid of Lamar Odom because he found out about the news of the trade and was like devastated, and it killed their team chemistry. And then it also forced, Pau Gasol to struggle in terms of, not feeling comfortable there. And I think he'd later go on to say that like his time in LA kind of ended there, even though he wasn't traded until, a few years later. But, that trade was sort of devastating on the landscape of the league. And then, now you look at what's happening, and there's super teams sprouting up everywhere. There's buyout market trades, and, the league doesn't seem to have a problem with knowing which 2 teams will be in the finals at the start of the year.
Yeah, in my opinion, it kind of ruins basketball and creates basketball in a way because you kind of do know that those 2 teams would be there, but it kind of draws attention to every night. You're just hoping those teams lose, like all the time. I don't care who wins, but yeah, if the Lakers or the Nets lose, I'm happy now at this point. But yeah, I think it's crazy that the NBA at one point was blocking trades, or they did claim that reason that the NBA was technically managing the Hornets at the time and all that, but they later came out and said that they wanted to prevent super teams, and now it seems like that all has kind of gone out the window. So I mean, anytime you have Kyrie, Durant, Harden, Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge on the same team at one point in time, and still to this day, most of them are still all-star caliber players, and definitely in their prime were all-star caliber players. So that's crazy to me. You could put
it's pretty absurd. Not to mention, people I think are still forgetting how good their other players are too. They have Spencer Dinwiddie, who's injured. But that guy was probably on track to being a Sixth Man of the Year candidate before this super team kind of assembled and sucked up all his minutes, and he got hurt and what have you. But that's a great player. And then you've also got Joe Harris, who's one of the best shooters in the league. So, Brooklyn's absolutely loaded. Whether Griffin and Aldridge are washed up or not, it still shows that, this is not only a big 3, but a team that has great pieces around that big 3 as well. And then, the Lakers, I think you've got these 3 stars on here as well. I think it's easy to overlook that even right now they're losing games and stuff, but I think as we speak, they're beating down the Raptors without LeBron or Anthony Davis. And they do have Drummond now, but they have 2 Sixth Man of the Year candidates from last year, one of which actually ended up winning the award in Harrell. And then Dennis Schroeder, I think, was the runner-up. So they have those 2 guys on their team too. So although that doesn't look as pretty on paper as, maybe another all-star, a 4th all-star player does, it certainly equates to a 4th all-star, if not more.
Sure. Right. Yeah, definitely. If everybody looking at these 2 rosters, if you put all the rosters on paper, you would point to these 2 rosters and say if they don't end up in the finals, then they did something wrong or maybe struggle with injuries or something. But I think if either one of those 2 teams doesn't at least make the finals, they'd consider this a lost season, and right now, I don't know how you could bet against the Nets to win it all. In my opinion,
I put $20 on them before the Harden trade to win the East. I think it'll pay me $87. I wish I did more, man. It's such a lock. Even if Durant doesn't play, they still make the finals.
Yeah,
I think.
But maybe the Bulls are their Achilles heel, as we just beat them the other night, and we'll take them down. No, just kidding. But
in a series, I don't think so.
There's still some games left in the NBA season, so you never know. Health is obviously a big issue. Teams like Miami and Denver are starting to get hot. They've obviously pulled some upsets in the playoffs last year. So you never know. But anyway, speaking of game counts, there's God knows how many left in the NBA, but I think we're all at the point where we're sort of bored of watching. But we're kind of starting to shift our focus to football and the draft. And also, what's this next thing on here we got, guys? Moving to a 17-game schedule, but only one bye.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so the NFL has talked about doing this for I don't know how long, 3, 4, 5 years now. They've kicked around the idea of extending the season and if it was going to be 1 game or 2 games or and many of the players didn't like it, even though kind of the promise to them is that they'd be
less
increasing the salary cap, cutting down the preseason and paying the players even more money was kind of the promise. So but many of the players still were not liking this. So there was a lot of talk of maybe adding a second bye week to ensure that the players are able to stay healthy and get some rest during the year. But it looks like it was made official, I think, about a week ago now, that they are going to be moving forward with the 17-game season. So they're adding a game, but they are only keeping that 1 bye game. So the season now will only be pushed out 1 week past when they were kind of expecting it to be, instead of adding the 2 bye weeks, which a lot of people were kind of liking, I think. What do you think about it, Rich?
I think this is complete, asinine by the NFL for not adding that extra bye week, for adding another, actual meaningful game to the schedule. And that's because the NFL is always like, oh, we care about our players. We care about their health. No, you don't. Because you have Thursday night games, which has been proven since Thursday night games, injuries to players during a Thursday night or that following Sunday have skyrocketed. They are up. So playing that extra game in the middle of the week with less rest time than you normally would get from playing on a Sunday rather in the middle of the week. So now injuries are going up there. Now you're going to add another game to the schedule and not give even more extra time. That just proves to me that you don't care at all about the players and the injury. I totally on board for 17 games. More football, the better. Definitely love football for sure. But again, add that extra bye week. Give those guys that extra rest to keep them healthy. Like Patrick Mahomes he got killed in that Super Bowl. You watch him, if he gets hurt, that's one of your main money-making guys. You want to protect him because that's what's bringing in your revenue. That's what's bringing your stuff in. So why would you not want to keep them healthier by doing something so easy and simple as throwing in an extra bye week?
And I have a question. You bring up a good point, Rich, with the Thursday to then turn around and play the following Sunday games. That is total trash in my opinion. But in doing this and adding this 17th game to the schedule, are they adding a week to the season, or are they going to cram this into the same time frame as the following season?
They are adding a week to the season, which is pushing the Super Bowl, the expected Super Bowl date, out 1 week. So this will be officially the longest football season in history. So yes, they are pushing it back.
Well, I mean, that's good at least, but I guess I don't really have a take. I don't know. I've never played football at any level. I know just from the simple eye test of watching the game, fairly often, but not religiously, that there are injuries in almost every single football game. So I think the more games you add, I think it's pretty reasonable to maybe at least consider seriously adding a second bye week, because I don't think it delays the season all that much. What's 1 week really in the grand scheme of things, especially with COVID and all these other things going on. I think it's also important to maybe have an extra bye week for teams to get guys cleared as we're still kind of coming out of COVID. I'm hoping that by the time the NFL season starts, COVID's a thing of the past and players missing games due to failing tests and things of that nature are no longer an issue. But I mean, it's just, we've seen how something as unprecedented as COVID-19 can totally derail sports, and just not kind of factoring that into a progressive plan to add a game to the schedule is a bit bizarre to me, because if it's not COVID, it could be something else. I mean, it just shows that in the future, we've got to keep these types of things in mind that we maybe didn't have reason to factor in before something like COVID. But now that it's a part of our everyday life, we need to be thinking of possible things that could go wrong and delay the season. So.
Well, NFL also announced as well last week that they are planning to have stadiums at full capacity as well. So, according to the NFL, COVID is not an issue or problem anymore come football time.
I think that's taking it a little bit out of context, Rich. I think their thing is by September, they're thinking that enough people will be vaccinated, enough people will be safe, that they are going to be able to have people in stands safely. The expectation right now is that the stadiums will be full, but I do think that if there's going to be a safety issue, then they're probably going to revert back to what they did last year and just leave it up to the owners of the team and owners of the stadium to see if they have fans. I mean, we are over 30% of the United States is vaccinated now, and that's only in a couple months of the vaccine being available. So, I mean, it's reasonable to say that over 50% of people in the United States will be vaccinated by the start of football season. So I do think that we'll see. I'm not going to say that they will be at full capacity, but I think it's reasonable to think that they might be. But I would like to see maybe some more precautions taken. Will they'll take temperatures or something as you're entering? I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that with all the people, packed that closely together. As far as the 17-game season, I like it as a fan, kind of like you were saying, Rich. Anytime you add more football, it's great. And it's also going to show, teams that, sometimes you always feel like some teams got lucky and kind of squeaked into the playoffs or something like that. More games, it's more chances to prove if you're actually a playoff caliber team. You'll, see less flukes, hopefully. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think you definitely could make an argument for having that second bye though, for sure, because like Austin said, we've seen a lot of injuries, especially over the last couple of years. Seen some really big injuries with, Saquon Barkley going out early last year and stuff like that. If a guy like Patrick Mahomes got hurt, that would pretty much derail the entire season for Kansas City. But I'm not saying adding a bye week is really going to change the fact of a player getting hurt or not. So I think it definitely has its pros and its cons. And to correct something you said, Rich, there is no such thing as playing Thursday and then playing Sunday. That doesn't happen. The closest they can play together is playing a Monday night game and then playing a Thursday night game, which the only team to do that more than 2 times in NFL history is the Chicago Bears. This last year, we did it our 3rd time, playing a Monday night game and then playing a Thursday night game. So
that's obnoxious. That is no time.
That is bullshit, though. That's total garbage. To have to play a game twice in the same week, that's ridiculous.
Right. And kind of to touch on something you said, Austin, about, not playing football at any level. I played football for about 10 years through junior programs and then into high school. To be honest, as a player, I would have loved to play football as much as I possibly could. I think it's very hard on your body to go through 17 weeks of that, though. In football, we only played a 9-week regular season, and then into playoff type stuff, we played 4 weeks of playoffs. So our state championship run year, we played 13 games, went 13-0, but even playing all that was not as much as a full NFL season. So I can see kind of that wear and tear on them. But I think it has a lot more to do with the possibility of injuries. And that's why the players are kind of so against it at this point. It's not necessarily just the wear and tear. It's the fact that adding one more game is one more chance that they get, a serious injury.
That is true, because NFL, with the contracts and money, they get paid for being on the field, not off the field like a lot of other sports. Right. So that is a huge thing as well. That's could be a lot of money lost for players by adding that extra game.
And you might see more players kind of pushing to do, more money guaranteed or all guaranteed contracts. Like we've seen more of, power being put inside the players' hands of having the fully guaranteed contracts, or having, in their clause, if they get injured, they're still, maybe not making all the money, but getting paid somehow. And we've seen a couple ways that they're kind of putting more power into the players' hands in football than we've seen before. And I think that is having a lot to do with seeing more players get injured, and they know that they're taking that risk, and they want to protect themselves as much as they can.
Yeah, that is so true. It always comes down to money, for sure, because again, it is protecting their bodies. That's protecting their livelihood. And how they get money is through sports. So they definitely have to go with that for sure. But again, the NFL also too just had that huge contract with the media. I think it was Fox and other media outlets that was worth a ton of money. And within that contract, they did have what is it? The extra game added as well, which is also in the players' contract as well with the NFLPA anyways. So the players knew this was coming, but I don't think they were expecting it to happen this quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, it's been talked about every year for, however long. I think a lot of players just kind of got to the point where they never really expected it to kind of go through. But, it's here. And as a football fan, I love it. And I think it'll help the cap situation with the cap going down this year, which we talked about. Hopefully, having that other game this year will kind of help the teams recoup some of the money they lost with the season last year, and be able to drive that salary cap back up so teams can start paying players what they're kind of expecting to be made next year as well.
No doubt. Speaking of next year, I think we're nearing the end of our rundown sheet. We're making good time today, fellas. But walk me through this trade that's happening. I always love these pre-draft trades that involve picks and stuff. So, Adam, would you mind breaking down what's going on with this trade here?
Yeah, so the big trade that, again, I think happened kind of earlier last week was Miami Dolphins traded away out of that third overall slot, which a lot of people thought, they might, because they didn't want to take a quarterback there. So they traded away that third pick in this year's draft to San Francisco in exchange for their 12th pick in this year's draft, their number 102 in this year's draft, and then a first-round pick in 2022 and in 2023.
Wow!
Just for that third pick. So they really liked somebody. They saw somebody on tape or met someone in person at one of these pro days, and they were very impressed to move up that far. And we're almost positive that it's not going to be Trevor Lawrence, and it's probably going to be Justin Fields or Trey Lance, I think, at this point. What do you think, Rich?
I love this move by the Dolphins. The Dolphins are doing a phenomenal job with these trades, because not only did they trade out a third pick, which they really didn't need, they got more first-round picks, and on top of that, they already traded back up to 6 with the Eagles. So the Dolphins aren't even at 12. So they traded back up to 6.
Oh, wow.
To get, I would assume, either get some offensive line help or another big-name receiver to help out Tua as well.
That's like my GM mode on easy. That's phenomenal work. Unbelievable. So they turned a number 3 pick into a number 6 pick, and then 102nd overall pick, a first-round pick in 2022, and a first-round pick in 2023.
Yeah.
I believe they gave away one of those other first-round picks to move back up, but that's
lethal. Yeah, that's a great move. I don't know much about the draft landscape, but I mean, I know for a fact, and I think we all do, that quarterbacks tend to go high in the draft. They obviously believe in Tua, so trading down will force them to not take a gamble on a prospect quarterback when they already have one, and not kind of pitting those two players against one another competing for minutes, and it'll help them fill out their team for years to come. And I think they're headed in the right direction anyway, regardless of any trades or picks. So I don't know. This looks really good for them. And I don't know what the 49ers will do to this, but does this kind of symbolize sort of their decision to rebuild at the quarterback position, do you guys think?
100%.
100%, yes. Yeah. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is out of town. I think he's been kind of being talked about being out of town for a while now, and he's another player that I'm surprised the Bears didn't kick the tires on, and that's another one. I'm not sure who I would have rather. Probably Jimmy G over Andy Dalton still as well, but he's really struggled to stay healthy, and I think the 49ers are right now saying, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not on the field, we can't win, games. Yeah, and they were paying him a decent amount of money. And I think they obviously made the decision to move up. And the only reason you're moving up that far is to grab a quarterback at this point. So yeah, Jimmy G is clearly going to be on the move. I'm kind of anxious to see where he goes. Yeah. I've been saying it for a while, and it was a puzzling move for me when New England signed Cam Newton back. I thought it always made sense for Jimmy G to go back to New England, where they seemed to really like him the first time. They really didn't want to get rid of him, but kind of Tom Brady threw a little fit, so they got rid of him. I was surprised that they didn't kind of try to bring him back earlier. So.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. That was kind of weird by the Patriots, but I do also think like Cam Newton, I think they put the right pieces around like Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton's definitely a more like athletic guy than Jimmy Garoppolo. So you have like that extra that's extra things the defense has to worry about with like right. Jimmy G. It's like, all right, dude, he's staying in the pocket. He ain't going to be rolling out too much. You're not afraid of him, like, running. So it's like if you take certain things away, Jimmy G's going to have, like, a rough kind of, like, outing when you're playing, like, better defenses. Where with Cam Newton, it's like if defense breaks down, that offensive line don't hold up, Cam Newton will just kind of – he'll pick up at least, like, 3-4 yards a carry, if not more.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it was a bad move by them. I'm just saying I was a little bit more puzzled by it because, we kind of talked about this a little bit before. He was sick and then they benched him and then he comes back and then they bench him again type of thing. So I kind of thought that was signaling that they were going to move on from him. And I was thinking that the 49ers were ready to move on from Jimmy G this whole time. And I just thought those two teams were – going to make a good match, and we'll see. I mean, maybe they get both those guys there. So there's still a question as to where Jimmy G will go. But I still think the Patriots make a lot of sense for him. So I guess only time will tell. But as far as San Francisco, that trade with Miami, I think it was crazy of them. I mean, to be honest, I don't know what quarterback – would be worth, even thinking back in history, I don't know what quarterback would almost be worth that much for first-round picks for a guy that, isn't even proven. So they feel really confident about somebody, but unless you can tell me that whoever they're going for is a surefire Hall of Famer, then I can't get on board with spending 4 picks. And I mean, especially you're looking at it, they're likely going to get the third best quarterback in the draft. So it's not like they're trading up for the best guy that's there for 4 picks. I think it's crazy. I mean, at that point, why didn't they trade those 4 picks and you go with Deshaun Watson, who is a proven, Hall of Fame possible talent. So to me, I don't like the move on their part.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a lot for San Francisco to give up. But San Francisco also has, like, that defense is – they had a lot of – they were decimated by injuries last year. Mm-hmm. That defense is easily a top 5 defense if everyone stays healthy. That offense, I think that offense could run with a lot of, like, just – average quarterbacks. So grabbing even the third best quarterback in a kind of friendlier offensive system in general, like that could just do wonders having, like, just like you said, just a guy on the field that stays healthy the whole time. Because when San Francisco went to the Super Bowl, Jimmy G was healthy pretty much that whole season. So even if you get someone that's like even a little downgrade from Jimmy G, because it is going to be a rookie, like San Francisco could still make playoffs and make a Super Bowl run with a rookie quarterback because of all the other pieces they have.
I don't think so. I think they're good, Rich. I think they're good. I don't think they're Super Bowl good. I don't care who's at quarterback.
And is a rookie quarterback going to be ready to be Super Bowl good, especially the third best rookie in a draft?
If he's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, right. I think only like a generational talent would be that good that quickly. So, yeah, even if this, off year was really just due to injuries for them, I don't think a rookie quarterback can resurrect that franchise and take them back to the Super Bowl or even a deep playoff run.
Rich,
they might take a step backwards. And if the rest of their team is older and kind of poised to be in win now mode, I think this move signifies a rebuild, and I think it's more likely that other pieces start to get moved in addition to Garoppolo, and they just start to rebuild the whole thing. But
sure.
I guess we'll see.
Rich, outside of George Kittle, name one player on their team that is the best at his position.
What?
Or even top 2, 3.
Dude, Bosa on the defensive line is definitely one of the top, one of the top linemen. One of their middle. I'm forgetting names. One of their middle or outside linebackers, easily top 5 at their position. So is one of their defensive tackles as well. Like, their defensive line is extremely good. Their secondary benefits from San Francisco's front 7. San Francisco definitely has a top 3, top 4 front 7 in the league.
Not better than Washington's.
Well, Washington's definitely like 1 or 2.
And not better than the Bears if they can stay healthy and get all their players back with Eddie Goldman and Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack.
Yeah, our front 7 is very good. I don't know, Dan Trevathan, I didn't play very well last year, I don't think. Like, I know
he was streaky. He was streaky.
He's very streaky. So, like, I think if the Bears could draft another middle linebacker that's a little bit more athletic, can cover a little bit better, like, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Bears front 7 is definitely, like, very good. But I don't know. I still think the Bears, like, front 7 has just a couple holes with Dan Trevathan. And then we got Robert Quinn, who that guy's a freaking hit or miss, like, kind of thing. So it's like, can we really rely on him or rely on that? So, like, I feel the Bears front 7 has I'm a little bit more worried about it than, like, I would want to be.
Sure. No, definitely. I'm just saying, like, I think 49ers are a good team all around, but I don't care who you line up at quarterback this year. They don't end up in the Super Bowl for me. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think that's reasonable if they stay healthy, but I don't really think Super Bowl for them this year. And you'll hear it here first. I'm calling Arizona Cardinals to win that division, and I'm calling the Washington football team to win their division.
I agree with that Washington football team.
So
pick,
do I.
man.
I agree with Washington.
We've always joked about doing a gambling segment, but I think maybe that would be my pick here, where we'd introduce that. I think that's a great pick to start the season. I love those, like, teams to win a certain division, like, type of picks in sports when it comes to putting some money on them. You might be able to make some quick cash doing that. But anyway, as we kind of wrap up our sixth and final topic here, is it 2-minute drill time, Rich? What do you think?
It is 2-minute drill time. This time, Adam always has a 2-minute drill. I think it's time to give Adam the taste of his own medicine here and see if he can answer some actual questions here. This isn't going to be a nice and easy Chicago 2-minute drill this time.
That Austin still failed.
That was hard. That wasn't even sports related. That would be like I just started asking you like about music when we were talking about a sports podcast.
I don't think I'm ready for this. I'm just I'm usually on the other end, and so I've never really prepared to get questions fired off at me.
The clock's already running, so you're in
trouble. God.
Oh no, clock has not started running. I'll definitely give you a countdown on that for sure.
Let me know when I can start it, Rich.
Okay, I'm starting it as well. We're gonna start.
Wait, who's answering? Who's asking the questions?
I'm asking the questions.
Wait, you guys?
I got the list. Yes, I'm gonna do them all.
Oh shit.
Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, are and were the Spurs a dynasty?
I think it was. Yeah, I think you can consider it a dynasty, but I'd consider it a short one. So I'll go with yes as a quick answer.
Wow.
Okay.
I would take the opposite.
Question 2: will Tiger Woods ever win another major?
He will not. I think he's on too many drugs, and that's why he's crashing cars and he's Asian. So I guess old people are good at golf, but I'll be bold and say no.
All right, sounds good. Question number 3: is Steph Curry a top 10 player in the NBA?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think he's the best shooter in the NBA. Oh, are you talking about NBA history or right now?
Just right now. Is he a top 10 player?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I would probably put him probably near the bottom of the top 5 if I had to quickly rank him.
All right, sounds good. Question 4: do you prefer the NBA or NHL playoffs?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I would say lately I would go with NHL only because, you got that too much of the super team thing going in the NBA, even though as much as I like to see those teams get knocked off, recently that hasn't been happening as often. It was nice to see kind of like a team like Miami get there last year, but then they didn't win it. So I'd go NHL because I think it's a little bit more variety and a little bit more kind of toss up as to who's actually going to
30 seconds.
Okay.
All right. Question 5: what will the Bears do with the 20th pick?
I'm hoping for the offensive line, Rich, but I think at this point, after trading Kyle Fuller, I think they could go corner. And I think if Mac Jones is there, which I don't think he will be, I think the Patriots or the Washington football team will take him if he falls that far. But I think they'll go there.
All right. Will the Bulls make the playoffs?
Yes. I think they'll get it.
And your time is out.
Son of a
you were
bitch.
2 questions away.
Wait, how many questions did you ask me?
Isn't it supposed to be? It's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You answered one question
6.
for like a minute and a half, dude.
You got 2 questions left.
Question, you talked for like a minute.
Which question?
Which one?
Tiger Woods, Steph Curry, and the playoffs. You spent quite a bit of time.
No, it was the hockey playoffs. You talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what were the other 2 questions? Let me rifle them
The
off.
other 2 is load management in sports obnoxious or necessary?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the basketball, they do a little bit too much of it, but I think for some of those older players, it's necessary. I don't like to see it, though. I think if a player is signing a contract to play, he should play as many games as he's available for.
Agreed.
Nice. And then was the Bulls trade worth it?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I think it's going to take him a while to kind of get used to playing with each other. I think Zach had it kind of in his mind that he had to go out and win every game, and now they kind of gave him another player, a couple players, and I think they have to find kind of their rhythm to gel. I think they picked up some better defenders, but it's a time of like getting used to who's next to you, and I think that's a big part of defense is knowing what the other guy will do. So I think it'll take a little bit of time, but I think we'll get there. In my opinion, Zach, who may or may not be injured, there's a lot of stuff going on that he has an ankle problem going on, but he's really underperformed since the trade, and that might be injury related, but yeah, I think it was definitely worth it for the long run.
All right. So Adam is not receiving his beer in 8 to 9 months. So sucks to suck.
It's okay. I got ice cream tonight instead.
Damn, that sounds good, honestly.
That
would be a good
dinner.
2-minute drill question. What is your favorite ice cream? It's a quick one to answer.
I got Culver's today. Shout out Culver's.
You want to sponsor the pod? You can email Rich at I'm just kidding.
Davis12251@gmail.
Oh God.
Oh wow. This will be interesting. We're gonna get flagged for that.
Oh boy.
Spamming your email address on YouTube.
Oh, you're
gonna get
demonetized,
Rich. Why would you do that?
And
You're
Rich
making like 0.7 of a cent.
Rich, you're just gonna have like a bunch of overweight elderly men send you nudes to your email now.
That's kind of what he wanted, though, right?
I think that's exactly what happens.
Sounded like a cry for help.
Email out on over national podcast.
Well, with that visual, we'll sign off.
All right.
Getting that out of your head. Until next time.
Till next time, fans.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you guys later.